Good morning, everybody. This is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms. Today is Tuesday, May 12th, and it's kind of cloudy outside. I don't know, is it raining where you're at? It's been kind of raining off and on around here, so it's a little dim in my um, at my dinner table here with my Texas map back there. So today, I'm excited to give you kind of a preview of a blog post that's going to publish today, and then I'll update the description of the video so you can click through and read the blog post. So we have a partnership with a new site called Learn Everywhere, and their message is just so in sync with our message because they have a website and a Facebook group, and it was created by Yes Every Kid to give resources to parents and encouragement that children really can learn everywhere. So they have an amazing website with resources that it helps. Well, I'll explain more in the blog post, but the idea is that we're in the situation of taking care of our kids at home. We've been getting distance learning packets from our school, but school year is going to end soon, and really, regardless of the structure of the school, the responsibility for parenting, rests with us. The responsibility for our children's education and preparing them for the future, it rests with us. And but these resources are very empowering. So that's what I'm excited about. But let me do like a little housekeeping. So this week the theme is like Learn Everywhere is the theme of the whole week. So yesterday I talked about our trip over the weekend to the San Antonio Botanical Garden, which has reopened and is a great place to take your kids to learn. And let's see, later this week we have a guest on Thursday. We have Ryan Badger, who's a curator at the Frisco Western Art Museum. So he's going to talk about their online resources and ways to incorporate that in your learning at home. And then on Friday we have a guest. We have Adina Ichalov, who's the valedictorian at Brooks Collegiate Academy, and she's going to talk about her experience as a member of the class of 2020 and how things have been different for them this year. So those are some some of our guests. Tomorrow, in keeping with the sort of Learn Everywhere theme, I'm going to talk about our state parks visits that my family's been doing. So again, the key theme of Learn Everywhere, and that's kind of how we're ramping up. So we're cooking up something to help you guys in June when you're going to have your kids at home, but distance learning will be kind of winding up. So okay, so I'm excited about. This is my cheat sheet. This is my like Google Doc version for the post. It's all loaded in WordPress, and it's going to come up. Oh, hey, Becca says hi. So Becca is our awesome group moderator in the San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group. And if you're not already a member, I hope you will join. It's a place where we've been sharing resources. Becca's been sharing a lot of great links about wondering about what back to school will be like. Will school calendars be different next year? That's kind of a hot topic. So please join the group, ask your questions. If you're still deciding what school to enroll your kids in for next year, there's parents who have kids at a lot of these schools of choice, and they can comment on their own experience. So if you want to know what the kindergarten schedule is like at a certain school, or how do they study Hebrew at ECLA, right? We've got we've got parents in the group who can help. So good morning, Becca. Okay, so what I'm excited about Learn Everywhere is that they have a great website that solves kind of two of the problems involved with planning your children's education. So, like one of the problems is, I guess it's sort of this duality. It comes from I'm coming from a place of humility. Okay, like I'm not pretending that I have this all figured out, but I have been kind of experimenting with this off and on. I guess just some backstory. So I have two kids. My son is 12. My daughter's 10. I homeschooled my son when he would have been in first grade because our neighborhood school wasn't a good fit, and the charter school that I wanted him to go to, they postponed their opening for a year. So I was like, guess what? We're homeschooling, and it turned out to be a good year because he and I spent a lot of time one-on-one. He was able to build his social skills, which for a child with autism, that's really important. And we did basically a lot of field trips. Things are a little different now. We're doing more, trying to be creative of what we can do at home or what we can do kind of out in nature, away from other people. So, but here's kind of the two strategies that my family uses when we're planning learning at home, and then I'll explain how the Learn Everywhere website dovetails with that and suits with that well. Becca says SC Churros sketch group is the best. It is the best. I think all the parents in San Antonio should join. We have a lot of fun there, and it's a supportive group, right? It's kind and welcoming, so you can feel safe asking your questions there. You'll get answers. Okay, so here's the two strategies. So at first there's sort of the curiosity, right, of like, let's find out what's out there, right? What are all these different options? And I think just if you think back to, like, I call it like spring break week 2, right? It was the week when we knew that schools were closed. We didn't know for how long. Maybe we didn't have distance learning packets yet and things. And just there, it felt like there was a flood of like, hey, did you know this is out there? Did you know this is out there? And it was exciting and inspiring, because there are a lot of things that I hadn't even thought of that you could learn from home, right? Things like virtual museum tours, or like, like artists who would do drawing classes online, or like virtual concerts, and just all these possibilities out there. Um, but I think part of the challenge with that is that the range of options seems so broad that it feels overwhelming. And then maybe a little bit of guilt sets in of like, all this stuff is out there. Why am I not doing this with my kids? And now, tangent, that's why we've had guests to talk about mental health and self care, right? We had our team member, Laura Idle, wrote a post about self care. Which your options are limited, right? You like the salons are only just starting to open, right? But there are things you can do to take care of yourself. So don't feel guilty, right? You're doing the best you can. Um, okay, so there's all this stuff out there. And how do you learn to choose what's what? So that's when you need the second strategy, which is to remember that you're not alone, and that even though we are physically distant from each other, we should stay socially connected, and we can still lean on our friends and our community to help us kind of curate and kind of understand what's important. Okay, so here's these two strategies, right? One is um, sort of finding out what's available, and then the other is kind of sort of curating and finding out what's going to work for your family. So Learn Everywhere has tools for both of these situations. So the website is really well organized by topic. And so if you're in that curiosity, kind of that investigative phase of like finding out what's available, um, it helps you sort out like by subject. And they have very thoughtfully put together like, okay, so you're just in science, so here are some experiments you can download. Here are, right, so it's all these things out there, and it's no longer random. Like you can sort, you can research and compare, different things. So that's really helpful. The other tool is that they have their online group, right? So it's also Learn Everywhere. And in that, so members are sharing stuff. And it's interesting, it's a national group. So some of the most active members are people in California or Colorado. And then the fact is that since we're all doing online stuff, it doesn't really matter like where in the country the resources are being created from. It'll help kids wherever. Um, so the helpful thing about groups like Learn Everywhere and SA Traumos group is it helps with this as well, is you can ask and say, okay, I'm looking for a solution for how to teach touch typing, and tell me what websites have worked for you or what software has worked for you. And then you get to ask, like you get like real life experiences, and it speeds up like that research process or kind of that trial and error process, right? So somebody can tell you like, well, this worked really well for my kids, but they're a little younger and they like the cartoon characters. Or someone else will say, well, this worked for my kids, they're older, they really wanted to get right to the point, and this gave them motivation. So it's that human element, right? So I feel like that's how we can solve this problem, is by taking in more and more information about what's available out there, right? So and a website like Learn Everywhere really helps because it's organized. And then there's that process of kind of curating and finding out what's appropriate and asking questions about stuff. And that's where an online group, right? So the Learn Everywhere group, but also the SC Moms group, we can help with that, right? The members help each other. And this is where online community is really important. And so again, even though we're physically distant from each other, want to help each other, and we care. I think it's part of human nature. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of rising up out of this situation, is how willing people are to try to step up and help. Um, So those are, um, I mean, I kind of dove right into what the strategies were, but I mean, fundamentally, this is really important to me because, um, I feel like I was a student who didn't necessarily fit in the typical settings. My kids are not typical kids. I think if you ask around a lot of people, they feel like their kids are unique and they don't necessarily fit in, right? Um, and I think it's important to like don't see that as something wrong, but see that as something like wonderful about human nature, and then to yeah, celebrate that and find what's you know how we can like tailor things to each of our kids, um, and recognizing that it's out of a parent's love for their children. That's where this desire comes from, like to get them the best education possible. And it's not about taking things away from other kids or like holding on to resources that should go somewhere else. It's about creating more. It's about abundance, that there are lots of free resources out there, and we just need to and we're here at home, we have time, right? I know it's hard because there's we still have to do housework, and we still have to keep our day jobs and things like that, so I know it's not easy. I struggle with this myself because I feel like I've been doubting my own productivity. But when I really step back and reflect on like the skills that I've been able to teach my kids, like the hands-on skills, like the things in the kitchen or sewing or gardening, it is an opportunity, and there is some good that can come out of this. So, um, trying to think, this maybe wind up being kind of a short talk because I really want you guys to go and like, well, I'll publish the post will publish today. I'll add the link. But I really want you guys to like join the group. I want you to like, visit the website and click around with it. And then, comment and tell me like, what did you find? And that's like, my family's going to be sharing a lot about this. We're going to be, we'll be posting about, hey, here's a new activity that we're trying. This is what we're this is how I'm listening to what my kids say they want to do, and then finding things that are tailored to them. Um, I know sometimes kids will say like, "Well, I just want to play with my iPad, or I just want to watch TV," but we're stuck with each other, right? So you have a captive audience. You can talk to them about what they want to be when they grow up, or what would their dream job be, and then figure out steps how to get there. So those are things that we're working on in our family, and I don't know how this is all going to work out. And again, I present this with a big dose of humility that I don't have this all figured out. It took me several drafts, and I had to kind of write it and kind of set it aside and come back to it to really collect my thoughts, because like I knew instinctively that I support the idea that children can learn everywhere. It doesn't have to be in a school building. It doesn't have to be, in an online class on a computer. There are lots of opportunities for learning, and in some ways, the fact that you can personalize it to them and make it fit their interests, and you can find projects that combine lots of different skills. Um, those are really beautiful things. But I still had to collect my thoughts because um, I didn't want to be a hypocrite, saying like, "Oh yeah, this is great." Parents can teach their kids. Meanwhile, I'm feeling, terrified about my kids getting behind, or about just, just letting them down somehow, right? Um, so that's where, yeah, I'm not presenting this as saying like I'm the expert on everything and my kids are perfect. That is not true. We're still figuring this out. Um, but on the other hand, I feel like it's really sacred, like what I can do for them in this context, and just how I can help them, really, really like find themselves, get to know themselves, challenge themselves, feel proud about what they're learning, um, and to think about what kind of people they want to become. Um, I think that spending time learning is really a way to like to brighten these days instead of just kind of waiting for time to pass by. Just like see what we can make, see what we can develop during this time, and where it will lead us. Um, so okay, so I just want to recap like kind of my how I look at learn everywhere and how I recommend you kind of learn to apply these tools, right? So I talked about the two strategies. One is kind of this investigative, creative, let's find out what's available. Let's take in lots of information about what's out there. And the Learn Everywhere website is really helpful for that. And the posts in the group as well. Um, so if you're curious about, okay, I want to add a science activity to our schedule, to my kids' lives, then you can go to that part of the website and find suggestions and just take in all this information and just see what goes, ooh, that looks fun, right? See what sparks your imagination. And then the other challenge though is sometimes feeling overwhelmed, feeling like there's just too much out there. And how do I curate this and how do I bring this down to earth to things that we can really implement? And I think that's something where even though we're physically distant, be able to use online communities to tap into the know-how of other families is really helpful. So you can ask a question of like, okay, I want to do a science thing with my kid, but what's going to be age appropriate? What materials will work for them? Like I found this video, but how do I, make this hands-on? And that's where like you're not alone and you don't have to figure this out all by yourself. It can be parents helping parents in these online communities. So yeah, okay. So that is why I think the Learn Everywhere website is really important. That's why I think their Facebook group is really important. I hope you will also continue to use the resources on the San Antonio Charter Moms website and our Facebook discussion group and our page. Um, but this is a Learn Everywhere is a great resource. It's out there. It can really help you to keep your kids learning. It can bring some hope and optimism to a time when we feel like a lot of our options are closed off. And we can come out of this stronger and better prepared for the future. Um, so yeah, and then okay, so I'll give a quick preview of what's coming up this week. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to talk about state parks. My family's experience about because we are learning everywhere. We're learning at lots of state parks. And then on Thursday we have a guest. We have Ryan Badger, who's a curator at the Frisco Western Art Museum. And then on Friday we have a senior, Adina Ichlov, who's a valedictorian at Brooks Collegiate Academy, and she'll be talking about her experience as a member of the class of 2020 and how things have been different this year. Okay, so that is Charter Moms Chats for Tuesday, and I will be back tomorrow morning. Take care, y'all.